overwhelmed once or twice with resources for language learning, especially for popular languages like German, and we just don't know where to start. German is the fastest language that I've ever learned because I found the right resources for me early in my learning, and I want to share them with you to beat overwhelm and to learn more efficiently. It is important to have a clear idea of what resources are poor quality, high quality, and which ones are right for you so you can get the proficiency results that you want. If you are on a budget, all of these resources that I'm about to mention are going to be free to access. Now, I highly recommend after this video that you go grab my free resource guide in the comments, where you will get 3 bonuses specifically if you are more interested in paid resources that I combined with these free resources. You'll get access to the websites that I recommend for getting free and complete textbooks in German and in digital format. Also, you'll get my most valuable resources for all of these other languages right here, so you won't feel lost or stuck with finding your next resource. Please note, I will list the best free resources to learn German and self-study, but just note that when and how you use these resources need to be tailored to your specific situation, because we all learn differently. I'm going to give you my top resource recommendations categorized by level and type, but also stay till the end of this video so you can see my sample study plans for levels A1 to C2 in German, so you have a good starting point for structuring your German language learning. So let's start with the resources that will cater to any level from beginner to advanced, and you can find most of the 5 skills covered: speaking, reading, listening, writing, and grammar. My number 1 German resource is inthulean.com. It works on everything except listening, which you can easily supplement with YouTube videos that you find online. There is a whole syllabus from German A1 beginner levels to B2 high intermediate levels, and it's constructed as if you were going through 2 years of college German courses in the USA. As you can see on the tab by German 101, 102, 203, and 204 labels on the side here. Honestly though, I just used the grammar worksheets, where you can see cases, you can see verbs, verbs with prepositions, and they're really broken down into digestible formats, so you get visual pictures, but you also don't feel overwhelmed by what you are learning. Nancy, who is the owner of all the materials, is great at breaking down what are seemingly complicated German grammar points. You'll also get a lot of insight to culture, vocabulary exercises, reading, song lyrics, German literature recommendations. There's way too much to go over for that resource, but write me down below if you would like a more in-depth review of that particular site, because there's a lot to discover. Next resource that covers everything is Deutsche Welle. If you go and type Deutsch lernen in their website, you will find all of their materials for A1 all the way up to C2 that they recommend. It's a news website, a YouTube channel for German learning, and they tend to have a lot of gamified options on their website, which I really like, using a lot of pictures, but also small grammar notes here and there to help you supplement your learning. They also have a very well-known YouTube series for levels A1 to B1 called Nico's Weg. It's presented in a movie format, but you can also watch it in about 1 minute to 2 minute clips of Nico going through his daily life in Germany. Now, Nico's Weg also comes with worksheets and a few explanations of grammar and vocabulary you saw in each clip, so make sure you go over to the Deutsche Welle website, because that's where you'll be able to access them. They won't be included on YouTube. Number 3 that cover everything except for speaking and listening, those will require that you pay for a membership with Lingoda, but I love you can download the free PDF presentations from German A1 up until C1 levels, and they cover everything from grammar to writing, vocabulary. They even have speaking prompts for every level. So if you're not sure what to talk about by yourself, I suggest that you go over and download a slide that looks interesting to you. Best German dictionaries for any level, I always recommend linge.de, because it gives you so much insight into how a phrase or different words are used in context. I also love reverso context for this exact same reason, but even if you start typing a letter into linge.de with a search, you'll see all of these amazing phrases that pop up. I especially liked to use linge when I was in the intermediate level, because I could start really applying these expressions that were just given to me on linge, whereas I would have had to search a little bit more for them in reverso context. And if you are stuck on any of those tricky verb conjugations, conjugator.com is the best for that. They also have great conjugations for other languages. Conjugator is where you need to go. So YouTube channels for beginners and up, I highly recommend starting with music. I started with Sing mit mir Kinderlieder, which is a YouTube channel that has some familiar tunes of really popular songs, but they are all in German and the lyrics are usually on the screen. If you're really starting with German and looking for listening that is comprehensible and won't overwhelm you, then I recommend this channel to start with. Laura Stern is also a really cute episode series that is originally German, and I watched this from the time that I was A2 and up. Other YouTubers I would recommend for language insights as well as insights into the culture are Don't Trust the Rabbit, Deutsch für euch, and get Germanized. I sometimes learned insights for the language, but I even more appreciated their insights into German culture. Herr Antrim was where I picked up a lot of songs that'll help me memorize the German cases and especially the prepositions for the German cases. He made a lot of cheesy songs on his channel, but they help so much with memorizing the grammar. So definitely check him out if you are having trouble in the A2, B1 stages for grammar. I have never used Learn German with Anya, but I do teach a lot of students who are learning German and they really approve of her channel, so I thought I would include it here too. And Easy German, which is also a podcast and YouTube channel, have great street interviews. They also have a segment called Super Easy German, which is where they will go over the basics and you can hear them from a native speaker in real time. For intermediate learners and up, Deutsch Verstehen is a great YouTube channel, again, for more short video dialogues that come with illustrations, and it'll really help your listening comprehension. Deutsche Grammatik Verstehen is also a channel that I recommend for intermediate learners who are really getting into some shaky grammar points that require more in-depth explanations. That's a great grammar YouTube channel for that. Tagesschau in 100 Sekunden is a great news website, and it is also on YouTube, where it takes literally less than 2 minutes to listen to the news in German and really expose yourself to new vocabulary, current affairs, anything that could be going on in the world. I used to listen to this every morning as part of my daily routine to just have German there, even if I didn't understand much of what was being said. By listening to it every single day and it coming out with a new episode every single day, I could greatly improve my intermediate listening skills. Deutsche Welle, as I said, also has news completely in German, so I would advise to look around on their website as well as just type in Deutsche Welle Nachrichten, and there you'll see all of their news segments for German. Now, Julian Böhm and Lesa Luca, they are some of the biggest German YouTubers, I think. They were really big back when I started learning German. They are entertainment channels and they're not usually my cup of tea, but it was interesting to see the very colloquial way that they spoke. They integrate a lot of English, and it's really fascinating to see how the language is truly used by my generation instead of in a textbook. So even if that kind of genre of a channel doesn't interest you, I would highly recommend to go and check them out. For advanced learners and up, Leroy Viswissen is great because he dives into different fascinating stories from very different perspectives. Redefabrik is a German channel specifically for improving and discerning verbal communication, non-communication. Mr. Wissen to go, that is more aimed at a lot of history and a lot of current affairs at the moment. Brust raus is a lifestyle investigation channel, and it also investigates into different trending parts of the internet that are fascinating as well as kind of weird. I love it. So definitely check that out if you're interested in that. And TAF has their own YouTube channel that is a lifestyle magazine from the company Pro7, and it reminds me a lot of reality TV in Germany, so you can definitely check that out if you're interested. Now, if you are enjoying these resources so far, make sure you give a like down below and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any other resource recommendations or language tips that have to do a lot with our mindset and well-being while we are learning a language. Let's go on to podcasts, which are one of my favorite topics. What's great for beginners is Slow German Podcast for beginners, Learn German with Falk, that is aimed at A1 and up. Coffee Break German is aimed around A2 and up. Alma Easy German, also some of my favorites when I was just getting into learning German. For the intermediate learners, we have Deutsch einfach lernen, Deutsch lernen durchs Hören. If you're looking for different podcasts that are outside of just teaching you German, then I really recommend Reise, a lot about travel. Kochen lernen, leicht gemacht, if you're interested in cooking. Finanzfluss and investieren lernen, if you are into any finance. Also make sure you head over to the recommended tab when looking at these podcasts so you can find related ones that might pique your interest as well. For the advanced learners, I love Finanzen mit Franzi. They discuss a lot of how finances, retirement, investments work in Germany. Innenleben, which deals a little bit more with psychology. Terra Ex Geschichte, which deals a lot with history and is also hosted by Marco from Mr. Wissen to Go. I also like Die Kunst, den Kunden zu lesen, which is also a business podcast. We are now reaching the miscellaneous section of this video that will include music, vocabulary practice, blogs, where to find tandem language partners, and other freebies at the end. So I recommend you find music that you like at any level. Inthuline.com has great transcriptions of the lyrics and translations, but you can also start on YouTube with Wise Guys, Provinz, Joris, Casper, Kro, Kraftklub, Juju if you're more into the rap scene, etc. For vocabulary, I always loved receiving newsletters from Learn with Oliver. It is a spaced repetition tool, and it gave me a daily newsletter where I could review the words that I already did from the previous week, or I would also learn a few new ones that were thrown in there with some games. Now, Memrise and Quizlet, they are both platforms that have pre-made flashcards labeled within categories, or you can also make your own flashcards on the platforms. I just find that Quizlet is a little bit more customizable for my needs, so that's why I prefer that. But I also like Memrise because they already have a lot of flashcards to learn idioms or set phrases, things like that. So flashcards aren't everyone's favorites, so if they aren't your thing, then let's move on. The best blog that I found for German is Your Daily German, previously called German is Easy blog. It was written by Manuel, who is a native German speaker, and as he puts it, loves explaining grammar and meanings of words. He has short articles that aren't overwhelming. They're digestible for when you don't have an hour-long study session. I used it a lot, not only for grammar, but also finding nuances in grammar and differences between vocabulary words, etc. Language exchanges, italki and HelloTalk are some of the most popular ones out there where you can find a partner, but I also recommend you look around for Facebook groups in your area or meetup.com where you can find online and in-person language events. Some more freebies are the Global Language Online Support System. I would start using it around upper beginner territory. It has a lot of different situations and was made by the US government for a lot of other languages that you can find on there. IE languages, especially from the very beginning of when you're starting your German journey into B1 sort of intermediate territory. That is great for reviewing some of the grammar that you may have learned but have forgotten. And then German for Free is great for finding extra exercises to practice all of those tricky cases and prepositions, verbs with. So now let's get to the self-study plans that I recommend. All of them last 1 to 2 hours. This is assuming you don't want to spend any money on learning German. You're not going to a language school, but you are strictly self-studying. You don't have a deadline, and you want to improve all the 5 areas of writing, listening, reading, speaking, and grammar in German. Before we decide to go on, I want you to tell me what your goals are for German. Are you trying to live abroad in Germany? Are you just learning it for fun with no certain end goal? Are you trying to get into a university there, work there? Tailor these plans and the length of time that you will study each week to your situation. So for A1, you are just starting out, so rule of thumb, do not overwhelm yourself with too many resources. Concentrate on maximum 3 resources before you get started. Now for a 1-hour session, I recommend the main resource, Learning Foundations with Deutsche Welle A1 section, where you can also find Nico's Weg, learning the alphabet, digestible phrases for the first 30 minutes of your session. After that, you would go into revision. So using Inthulin's first semester syllabus worksheets, under the Learn tab, you'll find under German 101, and that would take about 20 minutes to revise the grammar points and vocabulary you learned. Then for the last 10 minutes, I would review vocabulary such as with Quizlet, Memrise, whatever spaced repetition cards you like to use. If you don't like using vocabulary cards, I would recommend writing your new words or phrases a few more times down before your session is over. A2, rule of thumb, you want to build on your foundations to more complete sentences. You can talk about everyday situations with basic vocabulary. And at this point, you can expand to more resources. I would recommend maximum 5 and a study session of 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now, main resource plus listening would be Deutsche Welle, the A2 section. You could use Nico's Weg still. You could use a music analysis from Enthulin and vocabulary to picture matching, which you will also find on the A2 section of Deutsche Welle. This will take about 35 minutes. Then you'll have writing 1 time per week. That could be from a Lingoda writing prompt labeled for A1 to A2 levels, which would take about 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. I would also recommend finding a language partner, mainly so that they can check your writing prompt beforehand. You could ask them to record themselves reading the corrected version. Revision, which includes grammar, I would recommend Enthulin second semester. Syllabus worksheets labeled as German 102, that would take about 15 minutes to review some of that grammar and vocabulary. Same thing, you would end the session reviewing some of that vocabulary through your chosen method. Now, German is a very grammatical language, and if you want to be an advanced speaker, then grammar cannot be ignored. So don't shy away from it at this stage especially. Remember, Enthulin.com is great for those short and clear explanations and breaking down more complex grammar concepts. For B1, general rule of thumb, you want to have more complex usage of the language introduced. Some immersion can be introduced, but you will understand main ideas of work, study, leisure activities, topics. You can cope while traveling using German. I suggest keeping your resource list still a little bit small, maximum 6. Reevaluate what resource at this point is working for your learning style, not working, what language methods have worked for you so far, and what don't anymore. This study session would be about 1 hour and 15 minutes to 1 hour and 45 minutes. Now, your main resource would also include listening and vocabulary, again from Deutsche Welle's B1 section, where you would get Nico's Weg, Top Thema for short news articles, telenovela-style German shows, and a special section to learn and drill vocabulary related to work. Any resource you wanted to choose from to work on that day, that would last for 30 minutes. Reading you would integrate through Lingota slides labeled as B1. They have a lot of great reading passages there. I would spend about 15 minutes for that. Revision, which includes grammar, that would involve you going to Inthaline, third semester syllabus worksheets labeled under German 203. That would take about 15 minutes. And then you could integrate speaking, talking with a tandem partner 1 to 2 times per week, at least 15 minutes. Again, writing, if you wanted to work on that, I would include that 1 to 2 times per week, again, using the Lingota writing prompt, and then send it back to you with corrections, as well as recording their voice reading the corrected version, which would take around 15 minutes. Now, B2 is where full immersion is introduced. Reevaluate what resources you like at the stage, do away with resources that you don't like or haven't worked for you. I would keep between 6 to 12 resources here, but again, you might find yourself bored at the stage with the same ones because you understand more at a faster pace. Working through the 4th semester syllabus worksheets from Inthaline under the tab German 204, and this would take about 40 minutes. Now, I switched these to the main resource since at this stage you'll have a good level of understanding to use the slides more on your own, fill in any gaps of knowledge on grammar, vocabulary, etc. through Inthaline. Reading, I would pick a Deutsche Welle article section, which would last about 20 minutes to read through that. Writing would be any prompt that you could choose from the B2 Lingota slides, which would take about 15 minutes. And then for listening, you could use the gloss section, any of those exercises. You could also listen to the Nachrichten in 100 Sekunden from Tagesschau, or you could pick from Langsam gesprochene Nachrichten, which would last about 15 minutes, whichever resource you wanted to use. At this point, I would be speaking as much as I could, at least 1 time a week for an hour, or divide that into 2 lessons for 30 minutes per week. C1, again, would be full immersion, and you're building precise vocabulary in specialized fields of your interests, of what you're working in, university, etc. You can pick whatever you would like to listen to and get comfortable with expressing the same idea in more advanced ways. You need to constantly push yourself to phrase an idea using words outside of your comfort zone and avoiding saying the same phrases over and over again that will keep you in B2. I would talk as much as I could with natives. That would involve finding a really dedicated language partner, which will take some time through the website that I had mentioned previously in this video, and really hone in on what sort of language skill you want to improve, because at this level, since we are getting more specialized texts or specialized audio for listening, whatever skills you want to work on, that is going to take more dedication to really bring it up to an advanced level, understanding even more nuance behind the words that are read, or if you're using listening to practice. Now, C2, complete immersion, once again, you would be looking around for very niche topics, as well as nuances in vocabulary, expressions, and understanding the cultural nuances behind them as well. Reading, writing, it can be very academic at this level. And if you think about the difference between C1 versus C2, C1 learners can basically read what C2 learners can write. Now, once I reached a B2 level, I started to teach a little bit of the language to really solidify what I learned and get all of my grammar concepts and nuances in the language kind of figured out. I started off on italki and then expanded to other platforms. But if you are interested in teaching, anywhere from B2 and up would be a good level to start getting into teaching if you wanted to. If you wanted to work on writing in this, especially, a native is a must, because that is where you are going to start getting a lot of comments about, oh, that's grammatically correct what you wrote, but a native speaker would never say that way. You would really need someone to tell you how whatever you wrote would be more naturally phrased. If you're already studying German and you found a really helpful resource in this video that you didn't know before, make sure to write it down in the comments so others can see. Don't forget to subscribe and check out this next video about how I learned Italian. Make sure you write down any questions in the comments that you have. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.